Hey friends, welcome back. It is summertime. It is hot as all get out. And that's why I like to spend a lot of time by the water. But one of the most common comments that I get on videos is, what do you do about bugs? People will say things like, if I did that where I live, I'd be covered in ticks and chiggers and eaten alive by mosquitoes. Yes, where I live, there are mosquitoes, there are ticks. Chiggers have been bad this year. Mosquitoes have not been that bad. It's just been pretty dry. So the mosquitoes have not been terrible. I've had a few ticks on me, but not a lot. But the chiggers have been especially bad this year. So what do you do about bugs? So let's go over a few tips, few tricks that have worked for me when it comes to dealing with the bugs. If you spend time in the outdoors, you're gonna get bit by mosquitoes. You're gonna be harassed by insects, and that's just the way it goes. So it's either you completely avoid the outdoors because you're just that opposed to being around the insects, or you figure out ways of dealing with them. A lot of it is just building up a tolerance, kind of a capacity to ignore the bzzz around your ears and all that kind of stuff. If you can block it out, that helps a lot. And that's kind of what's worked really well for me, is after a little while, you just kind of block it out and you stop itching and you stop scratching and you just accept that you're going to get bit by stuff and it's just inevitable and there's not a whole lot you can do about it. But one of the primary things that I like to do, because I don't like using DEET, I don't like using a lot of the poisonous bug repellents like Permitherin, although that stuff does work. I don't like using it because it is poisonous for me, not just the bugs. So I don't like using it. My primary go-to is just long sleeves. So if I wear a long sleeve shirt like this one, long sleeve pants, perhaps socks, and in my pack here, it's more clothing that I would wear. So if I knew I was going to a really buggy area, let's say, you know, I've spent quite a bit of time in the Everglades. And if any of you have been to the Everglades, you know that the mosquitoes are like clouds. They can be swarms of blood-sucking, tormenting creatures, and it's pretty terrible. And if you're not prepared for that, you will lose your mind and go insane. So if you end up in a spot that's really, really buggy, it's important to have enough clothing to kind of cover up your body, and that goes from head to toe. So sandals are awesome. If I'm in and out of the water, I wear sandals a lot. If you watch any of my videos, you know I wear sandals a lot of the year, most of the year. And I like it because I'm in and out of the water a lot, and it's hard to beat them if you're in and out of the water. But if the bugs are really, really bad, man, especially mosquitoes like a couple of feet. They like just this couple of feet above the ground for whatever reason. I guess it's less windy. I don't know. But if you're in this area, they will devour you. If you lay down on the ground, in mosquito territory, you will get eaten alive. You will lose pounds in blood at night. Not literally, but you get what I'm saying. I've woke up at night with my lips completely swollen. Looked like I had lip injections because that was the only thing I left exposed, was my mouth right there. And it's really, really bad. So if you can get off the ground at all, it's helpful. So that's one of the reasons why I like a hammock so much. A hammock with a bug net like this one right here. While it's big and bulky, you won't regret carrying something like this if you're in mosquito bug territory. Biting flies, oh man, the yellow biting flies, those things are really troublesome, and being able to avoid them with something like this with a mosquito net is really, really nice. Now, while we're on the subject of hammocks with mosquito nets, before I forget about it, you can still get bit through. So if I'm laying in this hammock right here, and let's say it was hot, super hot and muggy, and I lay down with my shirt off and I'm just enjoying it, and I zip myself up with the mosquito net, they can still bite through most hammocks. The mosquitoes can still bite through this fabric. There's small enough, big enough holes where they can insert that little needle-like beak of theirs and still bite you. So wearing clothing, a long sleeve shirt while you're in your hammock, typically they can't get through the multiple layers of fabric. There's mosquito-proof hammocks where they can't bite through, but they solve that problem typically by a really, really tight weave, or it's multiple layers like that makes it difficult for them to get through. So I have woke up, I spent it was about 3 weeks, I guess, in Belize one time when I was probably early 20s, I guess. I was in Belize and we camped out in hammocks, and I woke up, I took my shirt off and I was trying to dry everything out because I was soaked. And I woke up one night and my back, laying in the hammock, my back was devoured with bites from like biting flies mostly. Not so much the mosquitoes, but gnats and biting flies and stuff just chewed my back completely up. So wearing extra layers of clothes is important. But back on the topic of clothing, if you can cover yourself completely up, that's going to solve a lot of your problems. Yes, it's hot and it's uncomfortable, but I would rather be hot and uncomfortable as opposed to being chewed alive. So gloves like these, I like these gloves right here. Mosquitoes typically can't bite through these. At least I've had good luck with them. These are GRX Palm Wick technology gloves. They kind of have a little bit of protection from, you know, cuts and stuff like that. They're a little bit heavier duty than the thin Gorilla gloves. So I like these. If I was in mosquito territory, I would have something like this. But you see this spot right here? Like, let's say I leave that exposed. Details matter. This would get devoured right here if you're in heavy bug territory. So what I've done in the past is I've taken my sleeves and I've pulled it over the glove, even tape around there, or use like a girl's rubber band for her hair. You can put that around here and it locks it off. Same thing with your pants, because they'll go up your pant legs and bite you. Again, avoiding buggy areas is one solution, but that's not always possible. Something else I've had good luck with as far as covering up my body and keeping the exposed skin at a minimum is just a shamog or just a big cloth like this. This is actually just a swaddling blanket. So it's made out of bamboo, and it's just a lightweight multi-purpose cloth right here. I'll just take two corners and I'll fold it like a triangle, like this, right there. So it's a big triangle, right? Similar how you would make like an improvised sling if you would hurt your shoulder or arm or something like that. And then I'll take it over top of the bill of my hat, and I'll pull about 2/3 to one side and 1/3 to the other side, so it looks kind of like this, right? I'll go around my face like this, and then back around to my neck, and that's where I just tie it off. You could tie a full knot or just kind of cinch it up like that. And you drape this thing down over your neck, over your face, and this leaves very minimal amount of your skin exposed to getting bit. And this has worked quite well for me. Yes, it's hot. I get it. And it's uncomfortable to be hot and steamy, humid environments where the bugs are, but it's so much better to not get bit than just to be a little uncomfortable from being hot. So this works quite well, and I've slept like this a lot. And if it's really, really buggy, you can pull it up super tight, and I've slept at night with it pushed underneath the bill of my hat like that, and I'll pull this down. And if it's loose, it's hard for them to get through. If it's tight against your skin, unless it's double layered, if it's double layered, it's hard for them to get through. But if it's a single layer and it's tight up against your ears or something, they'll still bite through it sometimes. So if you keep it loose like that, it's harder for them to get through. And that's how I would try to get a little bit of sleep once you get past the annoyance of the bzzz around your ears. Something else that works quite well is just a bug head net like this one. So if I take this off, I like this method because this is a multi-purpose cloth. I can use it for a lot of things. I don't have to use it just for a mosquito net. Like, this is just a mosquito head net, and it doesn't do a whole lot more than that. I mean, I guess you could improvise and get creative, but this works for a lot of different things. So, but again, I would like this with a hat. A boonie hat works really good because it keeps some space between you and the outside world. But putting this over top of my head and then cinching this up right here will keep the mosquitoes, and you want this kind of tight around your neck because it'll keep the mosquitoes out from being able to get in there and just swarming around you. But if you got a bill on, a hat bill like that, it'll keep this off of your eyeballs, keep it off your face, and it will give you some relief from those bugs. But if you notice this right here, I wore this right here with like a button-up shirt one time, a button-up long sleeve shirt and gloves and socks and the whole deal in the Everglades one time. But I left this one spot where the buttons came down on my shirt. This one tiny hole was exposed, and they devoured that one spot right there. So again, I might cinch this up, and then I put something like this net gaiter, which you guys know I'm a big fan of net gaiters. I might put this on first, something like that. And this helps a lot. However, if you stretch it tight and it's against your skin, they can still kind of get through in some spots, especially if they're really angry, aggressive mosquitoes. But this, in combination with this, and we're in business, because that will protect my neck and any other exposed areas. Again, hot and uncomfortable. I could pull this down like this and just use it for my neck, and that works pretty good. Let's talk about ticks. ticks are terrible because they can carry diseases like Lyme disease, which is pretty awful, and then the other disease, which I'm forgetting the name of, but it makes you allergic to red meat, which would be devastating for most of us. So ticks are terrible. The best thing that I found for ticks, they're gonna get on you. It's next to impossible to keep them off of you. Permethrin and other bug repellents and stuff like that do work, but I've still got ticks on me even when I've used that stuff. The best thing you can do for ticks is just regular tick checks. Once minimum a day. If you're in a buggy area, tall grasses and stuff like that are gonna be where you're gonna find a lot of ticks. If you're in a buggy area, you know there's ticks there, at least one tick check a day, at least. And that means stripping down and checking all the nooks and crannies. I've had them like under my arms, I've had them in the region, I've had them in my hair and behind my ears and stuff. And if you can get them before they latch onto you, that's ideal. But it's just regular tick checks. Have somebody look you over in the spots that you can't reach and just ensure that they don't get attached to you. But if you get them on there, it sucks. It's not that difficult to remove them. Don't freak out if you have a tick on you. You don't immediately have Lyme disease. It's possible that they have it, but I've pulled ticks off me every single year. Multiple times a year I get ticks actually bit and attached to me, and I pulled them off, and I don't have Lyme disease. Thermacells are another thing that works. I don't have a lot of experience using Thermacells. I don't like things that rely on batteries for the most part and having to recharge and all that stuff, but it does work. It basically sends out some sort of, correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section, but basically how I understand it is it sends out some sort of frequency in your close proximity that deters mosquitoes and other biting insects and such as that. So Thermacells do work. I've worked with camera crews before, and they've attached Thermacells to their belts or their actual equipment, and it's kept the mosquitoes a little bit at bay while they try to focus on what they're doing. So those do work, and I would be more likely to use one of those as opposed to those chemical permethrins and things like that. If you're in really buggy mosquito areas and you don't have the luxury of a mosquito net, the next best thing, and if they're biting through your single layer of clothing, like any kind of shirt that's like this, that's kind of tight, that they can bite through, having 2 layers of clothing on is sometimes the best thing to do to keep them from being able to bite through. Like I've had to wear 2 pairs of socks at night before, because you don't want to sleep with your boots on because you need your feet to be able to dry out. But a couple pairs of socks, a couple layers keeps them from biting through, and that has worked for me. Yeah, I wear merino wool anytime I'm going into a wilderness type setting. I usually wear merino wool like this. This is a 200 weight Icebreakers merino wool shirt, and I've had this one quite a while, and it does a good job of keeping the bugs off of me. Not perfect. I mean, they'll get through some of the tighter spots on my body, but it definitely is a whole lot better than nothing. And just like wild animals for the most part, and bears and all that stuff, people freak out about those things. They don't want anything to do with you. I've seen lots of bears, and most of the time I see their backside as they're running away from me. You don't need to worry about snakes so much. Yes, you need to watch where you step and that kind of stuff to be cautious and be aware that they're there. It's no different with insects. So with spiders and stuff, they're not going to bother you. They're not going to like come out and get you in the middle of the night and seek out to attack you. It's not what they're interested in doing. They don't want anything to do with you. The only time you're going to get bit by that kind of stuff is if you accidentally or on purpose kind of mess with them. So don't worry about insects so much. Yes, the biting flies and mosquitoes and stuff, yes, those are very, very troublesome. But all the other ones, like the great big spiders and stuff like that, don't stress about that stuff because they want nothing to do with you and they're pretty much harmless. My camera woman's getting eat up right now with short sleeves on. Short sleeves and ankles are a very popular place to get bit. So without a mosquito net, even at night, even if I'm wearing sandals at night, I would probably take my sandals off and I'd put on a pair of socks so I could avoid getting eaten alive. Make sure you check your dog for ticks on the regular too, because they can get really sick from tick bites. If you find one on them, pluck them off. All right, so natural remedies, guys. Now, here's my experience with natural remedies for bugs. Natural remedies work somewhat, but it's usually temporary. That's my experience with natural remedies. Any of the natural bug repellent sprays and stuff like that have essential oils in them, they work not nearly as good as the poison ones like Deet, but they do work to some degree, but they don't last very long either. So let's talk about natural remedies. This is mint next to me. This is a wild mint called horse mint. You can tell it's horse mint. All mints have kind of a square stem. So if you look at like this chunky part of the stem right here, you'll see that it's square. It's got 4 sides. So all your mints are gonna look like that. And obviously if you pluck off one of the leaves, crush it up and smell it, it's very minty. So this is an edible plant. You can make teas out of it. It's good stuff. And it's got a really strong smell. So if you take this mint, the leaves right here, and you smush it up and you rub it into your skin, it will deter bugs to a certain degree. It will keep the mosquitoes from biting your hands like that if you don't have any gloves, or you can put it on your face and neck and stuff. It will work, but it doesn't last very long, so you got to reapply regularly. Smells nice, so there's that. It's non-toxic, all that stuff. Make sure you're not allergic to anything like that before you do it, of course. But it does work, but it's temporary. Another solution is eating garlic cloves like this. So you pluck it apart, strip all the outside part off there, and you can chop it up, dice it up really small, and just down it, or you can swallow it like a pill, I guess. I would choke on a big piece of garlic clove, but it will digest faster if you chop it up and then just swallow it down with some water. You could chew it up, but it's pretty unpleasant. But if you do that, you will start to stink like garlic. Yes, you will not smell good, and the people around you will not like you very much, but it will help keep mosquitoes away. At least that's in our experience. So our friend that lived in the buggy area was getting eaten up by mosquitoes. She ate a garlic clove every single day. Yeah, she stunk a little bit like garlic, but it kept the mosquitoes and ticks at bay, kept them away from her. People who were in the exact same area working with her that weren't interested in eating the raw garlic, because it's, kind of unpleasant to eat raw garlic, they were getting chewed up still, and she was not. So it does work. Again, maybe not as effectively as a lot of the poisons, but it's a whole lot healthier. And actually eating garlic is really, really good for you anyway. So it's just an extra bonus that it keeps the bugs away.
Yeah, it was.
So in the summertime, in the buggier months, I try to get off of the ground because that's where the bugs are going to be. The ticks are going to get on you easier if you're on the ground. The mosquitoes like that close proximity to the ground. In the summertime, I like to get off of the ground and sleep in a hammock for the most part, because if you're on the ground, you're going to be more exposed to those bugs like ticks and mosquitoes. Mosquitoes like that first couple feet of space between the ground or above the ground. And if you can get above that, it's going to be much more beneficial, and you're going to get a lot less eaten alive. Now, just choosing your campsite, sometimes we don't have a choice. Sometimes we just are stuck in a buggy spot, and you've got to deal with it. And you've got to just tolerate the mosquitoes and the biting flies and all that stuff. But if you can choose a good spot, any place with a breeze, mosquitoes don't fly well with any breeze whatsoever. So if you can choose a spot that's kind of fairly open and a little bit breezier, you're going to have a whole lot less problems. Anytime, like in the Everglades, for example, anytime you're approaching a big growth of trees where lots of vegetation is, that's where the mosquitoes are terrible. The open spaces in the Everglades aren't nearly as bad. That's where all the water is, and you'd think it'd be worse, but it's not. It's near all the trees and vegetation that you get devoured. So try not to camp in places like that if you can help it. So sometimes just picking higher ground, getting out of the bottom. I'm in the bottom right now. This is kind of where my house is, in the river bottom, the creek bottom. Bugs are worse here. If you can get up higher towards the ridges in the summertime, it's going to be a lot less buggy. So choosing your campsite wisely is important for avoiding the nuisance creatures as well. I spent a lot of time in swamps. I love swamps. I really love them because there's life everywhere. In every square inch of a swamp, there is a huge amount of life, and the variety of life is just amazing. I really like them. But with those amazing life-giving areas, there comes some problems, and that comes in the form of biting insects. So what I did when I spent some time in the swamps is I built a mattress out of giant ragweed, and it does help to some degree keep some of the bugs away. It's not perfect. No, it definitely not. It doesn't work as good as like a Thermacell or something like that. But I built my mattress, a raised bed mattress, out of giant ragweed, and that seemed to help just a little bit. And then I kind of freshened it up each day and threw a little bit more on there because that smell does go away. But as you roll around on it and smush it up, it releases the smell, and that is what keeps some of those bugs at bay. Cedar, sweetgrass, any really pungent smelling kind of plants that aren't toxic, that you aren't allergic to. Obviously, do your own research when it comes to stuff like that before you start smearing stuff all over your body. Know what you're doing. Know the plant. Make sure you can positively identify it. Use it sparingly at first in a small spot. Make sure you don't have some reaction to it, and then go to town. So this is sassafras right here. Super strong, really pleasant smell. I really like sassafras. I do not know for a fact if this will keep. I haven't tried it. I haven't used this to deter bugs before, but I really like it. And that would be great if it did keep the bugs off because it smells fantastic. So if you have any experience using that to deter insects, let me know in the comment section. Our pond is just about dried up. It has not rained much at all this summer. We haven't gotten a lot of thunderstorms like we typically do. Look at that. Look at all the life in there though. See it all swimming around, getting away from me? Look at all that. Fish and tadpoles going crazy. A place like this, sleeping next to this would be a terrible idea if you were trying to avoid bugs, unless you were really prepared with all the bug nets and stuff. I would not want to sleep next to something like this. The stagnant water that's just been sitting here brewing is a perfect place for mosquitoes to hatch. So funny story, I was doing a survival course with a guy that was not very experienced in the outdoors. Great dude, really fun to be around, but he was pretty much an urbanite and had zero experience with the biting insects that we have here in the South. And I found a tick on me and I said, a tick, whatever. And I burn it with my lighter, killed the thing. And it freaked him out. The rest of the time that we were enduring this suffering of this survival scenario that we were in, he was just constantly aware that there might be a tick on him. And it freaked him out. He didn't want to sit on the ground. He was asking all the questions about what happens if one gets attached to you. And it was just losing his mind about becoming allergic to red meat. All right, friends, thanks so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Try not to hit the camera woman with a branch here. Please hit the thumbs up if you haven't done so already. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. Really appreciate that. And share this video. Please share it. That helps a lot. Leave lots of comments for me. Ask lots of questions. And please tell us some other remedies, some other methods of deterring the bugs that have worked for you.